Now going on to some vertical and horizontal stretches. We're sticking here on page 56, but now we're moving on to question 8. So we're given two lines, f of x and g of x, and the first thing we need to figure out is if g of x is a vertical or horizontal stretch of f of x. So there's two ways of looking at this. We can compare the points radical 2 and 2 to 2 and 2, or we can compare the other point we're given, which is 2 and 4, to 2 and 2. So now, if you were to look at this from the first side, which is radical 2 comma 2 to 2 and 2, we would see that there's a horizontal stretch by a factor of 2, meaning you have to multiply these x values by 2 in order to get this. As well, if you look at it from here, you see that we have to divide this y value by 2 in order to get this. So this would be a vertical stretch of a factor of a half, 1/2. And this would be a b stretch, so that would be times radical 2. So this would just be, so if you think about this, this is essentially a stretch by a factor of 1 over radical 2. So one thing that's interesting to note here is our original f of x function we can assume is x squared because it's some exponent. So what's interesting is that if we have a horizontal stretch of 1 radical 2, and we imagine that that is attached to our x, and that is squared. If we pull that out, it now becomes 1 squared over radical 2 squared, and then x squared, of course, which is just equal to 1 over 2. Meaning that a vertical stretch of 1 over 2 and a horizontal stretch of 1 over root 2 is the same thing for a parabola. The reason why is because in a parabola, whether something is immediately in front of the variable or it's taken out and squared is the same thing in this case. In other words, it can be both a horizontal and a vertical stretch by different factors. So now if we were to write g of x in terms of f of x, we can either say 1/2 f of x, or we can say g of x equal to f1 over root 2 of x. In other words, it can be both a horizontal or a vertical stretch, depending on how you look at it. However, it's important to understand what value you're putting in and where. So that's all for stretches. If you were looking for some customized help, you can check the description below.